Okay, I just want to make this little video today because it's a little concerning. I'm seeing a lot of anti-blackness in general, like a lot of anti-blackness from the Asians, okay? You know, they're talking about Asian hate, but I think it's more like black hate, okay? And I just want to point something out that, you know, the original Japanese was black. Right here, here's a picture. These are clearly African features on these indigenous people. And the story goes that in 25 BC, a ship from Africa, from a Hukong Kinte, who was one of the African kings of Ghana, sailed the ship all the way from Ghana, and he got lost. He was trying to explore the new world, and he ended up in Japan. So in Japan, they made a colony, and it was the first Japanese Afro colony in the world. So these Afro-Ghanaians, they started interbreeding with the Japanese women. And so they created the first black Japanese population. So if we use the one drop rule, according to now, the calculation would be that actually Japanese is around 45 to 65% black. So I just want to let y'all know and give y'all a little history lesson to correct it, because United States schools don't show this, but a lot of Japanese carry the black gene, and so do China. So these Chinese and Asians, we should be supporting each other, because Chinese are black, Japanese are black, and the whole Asia is black.
So true. And we are live tonight, folks, from the great state of Florida. Welcome, everyone, to the Vinced Ao Show. It is September 14th, the year of our Lord, 2023, and I am your galaxy-brained host, Vinced Ao. We got quite a bit to talk about tonight. Sorry we did not stream last night. Something came up personal, but we are here tonight. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I waited till tonight to bring back the stream, because it's been an actually eventful news day for once, which certainly you can't complain about. We got a lot to talk about tonight. First of all, Hunter Biden has been indicted on federal gun charges. Is this the big bombshell that Fox News and a lot of Republican media is going to tell you? Well, we'll talk about that here tonight. Also, Vivek Ramaswamy meets with Jake Paul. Mitt Romney, the old fossil, is finally retiring. And aliens? Apparently, quote-unquote, aliens, quote-unquote, have been found in Mexico. We will talk about that all tonight. But before we begin tonight's show, everyone be sure to leave a like on the stream right now. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And as usual, if you would like to super chat tonight to support let's be real, a black content creator like myself, as you saw from the video in the beginning. As you know, you got to support your black-owned businesses. I am a black-owned business. I'm a black content creator. So if you would like to super chat to support our show tonight, feel free to do so. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let us get into the hour of Dow tonight. But first, let me take a sip of water out of this red Solo cup, because I needed a sip of water. I need to hydrate. You know, us black content creators, we have to, of course, stay hydrated and stay on our health. And this is very true. All right, with that said, folks, we open tonight with the bombshell story. Folks, are you ready? Are you ready to have your socks truly blown off? Ladies and gentlemen, as of today, Hunter Biden has been indicted by the federal government on gun charges, and Fox News is reporting that he could face up to 10 years in jail. Oh my gosh. Hunter Biden's being indicted? This is the biggest thing ever. Folks, let's be real. Can I save you an entire year's worth of Fox News hits and a lot of people who are going to take you along for this ride? Nothing is going to happen. Okay? Now, should something obviously happen, is Hunter Biden and really the whole Biden family in general guilty of probably a great deal of many different crimes? Absolutely. But let's be completely real. The guy's not going to go to jail. I would, in fact, bet money that he's not going to do a single day in jail. And frankly, we'd be incredibly lucky to even get probation, okay? If we get a couple years of Hunter Biden probation, that would honestly shock me. So that's all I really have to say about it. You think, oh, wow, am I going to do a 10-minute segment covering the Hunter Biden charges? No, because we know exactly what is going to happen. And at this point, I'm kind of almost sick of doing, I honestly have been for many years now, sick of doing the same old circuit where it's like, okay, now our political opponents are really going to face justice. They never face justice. They never will, at least for some time. You know, maybe one day when we actually win back control of the republic, maybe then someone like the Biden family, who obviously is guilty of a great deal of many crimes, actually will do time for those crimes. But for the time being, let's not waste everyone's time. And let's also be completely real about the entire situation. The only reason they are doing this, the only reason they are indicting Hunter Biden to begin with, is to justify what they're about to do and currently doing to Donald Trump. That's all that it is. So they're going to do this very performative for the cameras Hunter Biden indictment where they say, look, guys, it's not just a political persecution against Trump. It's not only targeted at the authentic conservatives and the people who challenge the system, because look, Hunter Biden is also being indicted. See, Republicans, it's not political. We're not after you. Give me a freaking break. Okay? So that's all I have to say about it. You know, if you want to have your time wasted about how these charges are a real bombshell and guys, now we finally got him, then I don't know. You know, Fox News is on at this hour. Feel free to tune in there. That's all we have to say about it. That's all we have to say about it, truly. With that said, folks, let us get into the real, actual news for tonight. Should we start with Vivek or Mitt Romney? Actually, let's start with Mitt Romney. This is out of order from what I was going to do, but frankly, maybe this story is a little bit more heartening, to say the least. Okay? So, if you have not heard, as of yesterday, Senator Mitt Romney out of Utah has announced that he will be retiring. He was not going to run for another term in the U.S. Senate. And truly, you love to see it. Now, it is Utah. I'm not going to exactly claim that that bench in that state's incredibly deep. But it is certainly great to see that one of the great rhinos of our time will not be seeking another term. And assuming we do win in 2024, which is a big if, we will not have to deal with this guy ever again. With that said, folks, let us take a listen here and just enjoy. Okay, just enjoy the Mitt Romney retirement video. Here it is.
Contrary to a lot of expectations, I enjoy my work in the Senate a good deal. The last few years have been particularly productive as I was able to help lead and negotiate the bipartisan infrastructure law, a comprehensive China strategy process, religious liberty protections, a compromised gun safety law,
a compromised gun safety law. Are you talking about the one that John Cornyn passed that enables some pretty crazy red flag laws? Yeah, we love, Mitt Romney, real conservative, of course. And this is what you're very often told about this class of Republicans. Oh, you're just a Trump cultist. The real conservatives are all about so-and-so. Okay, well, apparently this is real conservatism is gun grabbing. Okay.
Electoral Count Act reform and emergency COVID relief funding. I was also able to help secure key Utah priorities, including funding for Hill Air Force Base and its program to modernize our nuclear deterrent, as well as funding for wildfire prevention, water infrastructure, rural broadband, removal of uranium tailings from Moab, expansion and restoration of our highway and transit infrastructure.
Okay, we get it. We get it. Let's move on. I want to hear him talk about how he's not running again.
Ones that need to make the decisions that will shape the world they will be living in. Now, we face critical challenges: mounting national debt, climate change, and the ambitious authoritarians of Russia and China.
So that apparently is Mitt Romney's big priorities of the future as a conservative. Now, the mounting national debt thing, I do understand. That obviously you could say, okay, Vince, just give it that. That's real. But according to Mitt Romney, Again, this is the person we elected in 2018. People elected in 2018 to be a conservative. This is who we wanted in 2012 to be the president of the United States. His 3 top priorities: national debt, which I'll say that should be on the list. Okay, fine. National debt, whatever. Climate change, and fighting authoritarians across the world. Aren't you glad this guy never became president? All right, let's keep listening to this.
Neither President Biden nor former President Trump are leading their party to confront those issues. On deficits and debt, both men refuse to address entitlements, even though they know that this represents 2/3 of federal spending. Donald Trump calls global warming a hoax, and President Biden offers feel-good solutions that make no difference to the global climate. On China, President Biden...
Okay, you guys got that? Mitt Romney's farewell address is him saying that Joe Biden's not doing enough about climate change. You guys got that? So when he's refusing to drill oil and hiking your gas prices and trying to make your car illegal, that's not enough, according to Mitt Romney. According to Mitt Romney, Joe Biden's not gone far enough on climate change. Okay.
Underinvests in the military.
Just take notes.
And
take
President
notes,
Trump
take notes.
underinvests in our alliances. Political motivations too often impede the solutions that these challenges demand. The next generation of leaders must take America to the next stage of global leadership. While I'm not running for re-election, I'm not retiring from the fight.
Oh, no.
I'll be your United States Senator until January of 2025. I will keep working on these and other issues, and I'll advance our state's numerous priorities. I look forward to working with you and with folks across our state and nation in that endeavor. It really is a profound honor to serve Utah and the country, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so.
Okay, so you certainly do love to see it. We're glad to see Mitt Romney go. Good riddance, will not be missed, all the usual things. We understand this. I'm not here to tell you something you don't already know. With that said, I do want to address the talking point that I've been seeing from some people. And it's summed up here by this tweet I saw the other day. It says, I disagree on some policy issues with Mitt Romney. Because as we remember his legacy, this is an important distinction that needs to be made. I'm so tired of hearing the talking point that, look, maybe we don't like Mitt Romney's policies. We may disagree on politics, but he's a decent man. He was a good man of moral integrity and character. And it's summed up with this tweet right here. It says, I disagree on some policy issues with Mitt Romney, but he is among the most decent people to ever run for president, ever. So he's up there with George Washington, apparently. It says, the way Dems and the press smeared him in 2012 remains infuriating and was a major inflection point for our politics. Let's address this really quickly. The idea that Mitt Romney, quote unquote, was, at the very least, guys, yeah, he was a rhino. Yeah, he surrendered our country to the far left in 2012, the effects of which we still have not recovered from. Even first-term Trump, I would argue, we never truly recovered from any of that. Let's actually go through the history there, okay, and address this idea. Is Mitt Romney actually the decent person that many people want to remember him as? Well, first of all, okay, so he's a good person. Well, let's address that. So many people seem to forget how Mitt Romney became the rhino that we know him to be today. Of course, you know, to many of us, he's always just been remembered as the anti-Trump guy who just never liked Donald Trump to begin with. But that's actually not true. Because if you'll remember back to, say, 2017 or so, probably a lot of people who watch the channel now weren't even paying attention to this back then. But back then, Mitt Romney was begging Donald Trump to be Secretary of State. Back in 2017, early 2018, something like that. They had a meeting very early on. And Mitt Romney really wanted that Secretary of State position. Obviously, as you know from history, Donald Trump told him, no, you're not hired. To which Mitt Romney responded to that. Okay, so in 2017, he loved Donald Trump. He was more than willing to go along and serve the Trump White House. When Donald Trump didn't give him a job, the next year he decides to run for Senate And then you know the rest is history. Runs for Senate for the only sole purpose of spiting Donald Trump. That's all. That's really, that is the main legacy he'll always be remembered as, right? All he did once he got into power was spite Donald Trump and try to make everything about the Trump agenda as difficult and as lame and as terrible as possible. So it's all the people who say, oh, Mitt Romney was, maybe we disagree on politics, but he was a decent guy. What is decent about, again, wanting a job in politics? You don't get it. Okay, fine. And then instead of just moving on from that, they always say Donald Trump is vengeful. Donald Trump's all about ego. What in any way is decent about, once you don't get that job, dedicating the entire rest of your career in politics to spiting the guy who didn't give you a job? And that's the truth about all of these neocons, all these rhinos who, preach from the position of moral decency and character. No, they're not. Because if you look at the history of a lot of these different people, they all wanted jobs from Donald Trump, Mitt Romney included. And when they didn't get them, or when they got fired from them for not doing a very good job, what's the thing they turn around and do? Seek revenge against him for the rest of the history of time. Meanwhile, the country, of course, suffers in the process of that. So there's step one, the people who say, strike one, I should say, to people who say, oh, well, at least Mitt Romney was a good person. No, he wasn't. That's revisionist history. That's not true. But even on the greater point, right? Obviously, like I said here, he positions himself as being the bigger man. Oh, I'm Mitt Romney. I'm always the bigger man about everything. Literally running for Senate and then spending your entire Senate career just trying to get back at Donald Trump is not being the bigger man. That is actually exponentially more immature than anything you want to claim Donald Trump's ego is all about. But even on the point, this guy brings up, well, look, the Dems and the press smeared him in 2012, and that was bad. Obviously, they did, by the way. I don't disagree with that. Yes. In 2012, Obama took some very low shots at Mitt Romney. The liberal media obviously went after Mitt Romney very hard. But what did Mitt Romney famously do? He did not respond. He pretended to be, oh, look, guys, I'm the bigger man. I'm all about this. And what it actually did was arguably cost us our country. Because when you think about the legacy of how, especially, and I pointed this out in the reply tweet, right? His refusal to defend himself also cost us 2012, and Obama's second term is arguably what started the current social demise. When you really think back to the history of this, Obama's first term, yeah, it wasn't great. It was kind of, lackluster. But when you think to the cultural insanity that we face now, when you think about the social issues that really press us now, the quote-unquote wokeness or SJWs, cultural Marxism, whatever you want to call it, that really is the byproduct of Obama's second term. That all started under Obama's second term, and really anyone who could see the writing on the wall knew that. Right? The moment Obama won again, which he was vulnerable in 2012, he was beatable. He did not do a good job of pulling us out of the recession or any of that stuff. He was not great on foreign policy. There were a lot of holes he had in 2012. Mitt Romney refused to exploit any of them, basically refused to win. He willingly lost the 2012 election. That cost us everything as a country. You think about everything that has risen and kind of come into being since, all out of Obama's second term. And I'm not saying the writing wasn't on the wall before, but fundamentally, even as lame as Mitt Romney would have been as president, you're looking at a very different United States right now, and honestly, a much more salvageable United States if Barack Obama does not win in 2012. But Mitt Romney, the man you claim is so much about moral decency, essentially sacrificed our entire country because he did not want to say mean things in return to Barack Obama saying mean things to him. What is morally decent about that? We need to get out of this conservative mentality where it's the morally right thing to do to literally just lose, to literally just cede all of your ground to the enemy. That is not decent. And by the way, you want to talk about, oh, Mitt Romney, he was always willing to pull punches and be really nice to everyone. That's also really not true. Because you look at how he was about Donald Trump. Did he pull punches towards Donald Trump? No. Did he ever pull punches on actual conservatives? The conservative Republicans? Absolutely not. He made life living heck for them. But what we consider to be his quote-unquote moral decency is the fact that he never was ever going to criticize a liberal. He would not criticize Obama. He would not criticize the Democrats. He wouldn't criticize the media. And basically all he did from 2018 to going into 2024, all he ever did was suck up to and appease the liberal side of things. Okay, so when it comes to conservatives, when it comes to allegedly his own side, all that Mitt Romney ever did was not stand up for them and constantly throw them under the bus. But because apparently he was more than happy to always suck up to the left, the bad guys, the other side, because of that, we consider him to be a morally decent man. What is moral? What is moral or decent about constantly throwing your own side under the bus and constantly enabling the other side, which in many ways is fundamentally evil, to take over the entire country? Nothing is virtuous about that. And then on top of that, are we going to forget, folks? Are we going to forget the infamous video in 2020 where he marched with Black Lives Matter? Not a joke. Do we forget this? Mitt Romney, folks, for people who forget, marched with Black Lives Matter, wearing a N95 mask and looking ridiculous in the process. So this guy marched with the very terrorists that, as you remember, burned down our country. Okay, these are far left terrorists that he was marching with, burned down our country. And even from a political perspective, instituted a bunch of policies that have made, and a culture, by the way, I should note that too, and a culture that have made our streets and our cities extremely unsafe. People have died. I don't know the exact number. I mean, someone should do a study on that post-mortem at some point. How many crimes and people getting hurt and killed or robbed could have been prevented without this certain policy because, you know, so-and-so got let out of jail when they should have been in jail? All of that. Mitt Romney stood there and endorsed, literally endorsed, the physical and metaphorical burning down of the United States, of the country he claims, oh, I'm not about party, I'm about country. And yet we still want to stand here and claim that, oh, we may disagree with Mitt Romney, but I believe he's a good man. I believe he's a decent man. Now, am I here necessarily to comment on the guy's personal moral character or whatever? No, I don't know the guy. But what I do know is that there is no point in remembering the legacy of Mitt Romney as anything else but failure. And failure when people were actually counting on him. You know, when the country was counting on him to stop the demise many, many times, whether that's 2012, whether that's literally just not marching with the very Black Lives Matter terrorists who were burning down the United States, every single time, Mitt Romney caved and many times just wanted to suck up and appease and seem like a good person in the eyes of the left. Will it save him from the left? Inevitably, no. Right? Liberals are not going to remember the guy fondly regardless because he's a Republican, so we understand that. But really, when I look at the legacy of Mitt Romney, I don't see a legacy of principle or moral decency. I see a legacy of cowardice. The guy, either because he was scared of the left or just wanted to suck up to them, whatever it is still cowardly. All he did was enable them. And there's nothing decent about that. When I look at all the destruction that Obama's second term, that Black Lives Matter, that every cause he has sucked up to and enabled, even the climate change agenda, which in his very retirement video, he endorses. He literally talks about climate change in his retirement video. And you consider all, like, the extent to which that's making life so much harder for so many Americans. Mitt Romney endorses you having higher gas prices. Mitt Romney endorses all of the stuff that's going to inevitably come in the future, whether that's, you know, stopping your ability to eat natural meat and natural food because climate change, taking your car from you, you know, making it unaffordable to live because of this insanity. Mitt Romney endorses all of that. And the crime, and the fact that your cities are unsafe, and the fact that your kids cannot go to school, public school, without being taught insane, perverted sexual nonsense. And yet people like this sit here and tell me that I should be remembering the guy for his quote-unquote moral decency or character or whatever these people are saying. It is gaslighting. It is ridiculous. And we need to get out of this framework where the most decent or moral thing you can do is suck up to the left and suck up to the people who are destroying the country. So Mitt Romney's political legacy to me, you know, it cannot be anything else but a legacy of failure, of cowardice, and of all around just completely sucking. Okay? So bye-bye, Mitt Romney. You will not be missed. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend as if I see you in some type of holier-than-thou light that is completely undeserved. You want me to see Mitt Romney as a decent man? Then maybe Mitt Romney shouldn't, again, have been enabling and endorsing and literally shaking hands with all the people who destroyed our country and make life harder for you. Okay? So just remember that to the people who want to view Mitt Romney on some type of moral pedestal. The next time you walk down the street in an American city and it's incredibly dangerous and, you know, you have some crazy crackhead chasing you, whatever it is, the things that happen, remember, Mitt Romney endorses that. Okay? The next time you got to fill up at the pump and, you know, you can barely afford to sustain your American way of life because of all this nonsense, Mitt Romney, on camera in his retirement video, endorses that. The next time you have to deal with the far left nonsense in the classroom, in your kid's classroom, remember, Mitt Romney enabled all of that. So that is the political legacy of Mitt Romney, folks. Before we continue, I know we did get a super chat here, so let's read it. Omar Zapata for $2 says, I swear I will not play it again tonight. Ha. Omar, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you are talking about. Are you talking about the most important video in the history of ever? Because we actually, you know, as we get later in the stories tonight, we actually have a follow-up video to the most important video in the history of ever. So be sure to stay tuned for that, folks. But again, as usual, if you would like to super chat to support the show and you got questions or comments that you want read and answered on the stream, feel free to do so. But with that said, we will move on here to the next story. All right, let's get a little bit controversial here because I know this is a little bit divisive among some people. But let's talk about it. So, recently, Vivek Ramaswamy he met with Jake Paul. Okay, so for the old people, who is Jake Paul? Jake Paul is a very famous YouTuber and influencer. And notably, he's one of the few YouTubers and influencers out there that is not on the left. As you know, his brother, Logan Paul, that character, total liberal, total shill, all of that stuff. Jake actually is a Trump supporter. He supported Trump in 2020. He got in trouble with the Calabasas police for shooting a music video when COVID said no, and he was like, screw them. So, you know, Jake, think what you will of him. On the political aspect, he is our guy. I tend to really, honestly, I kind of like him. I don't have problems with him. But this is the divisive thing. So, Vivek met with Jake Paul, and they did this whole circuit, and Jake actually said that he appreciated it and all this stuff. But check out this video here. They made a TikTok together, and people have opinions on this. Let's play it here. I'm going to mute the song, but because it's copyright, but there it is. Okay. Now, a part of me agrees with the side that is giving hate to this just because, is this video itself kind of cringe? Yeah, it is. I'll give you that, okay? There's no reason that Vivek has to sit down and do a TikTok like this with Jake Paul. You could easily do a video. You could easily talk about whatever, do a podcast or whatever it is. I do agree with the haters on this, that the TikTok's not necessary. This video in itself, yes, is very Elizabeth Warren, Andrew Yang, Democrat-esque, where they've done these cringe things to try to appeal to Gen Z. I absolutely agree with that. I don't think you have to do TikTok dances to appeal to our generation. At the same time, I will say this to the people who are giving Vivek the hardest time ever for meeting with Jake Paul. And I know this is a hot take because people see this video and they think it's very cringe. A lot of people don't like Jake Paul. But I don't think the idea of this, right, the meeting with him, was in itself a bad idea. Yes, is the video cringe? Sure, I'll give you that. But other stuff was said and done besides this one video that everyone's making a big deal out of. And my big thing on this is that at least, feel how, regardless of what you think of Vivek, because I'm not voting for him in the primary, I'm voting Trump. Regardless of what you think of him, what is wrong with him meeting with Jake Paul, and ultimately, what is he really trying to do? Reach out to young people, reach out to Gen Z, try to make a play for the younger vote. Because I feel like at its core, in many ways, that's what the hate is about. Not just the fact that this TikTok dance together they did was cringe. So there's my question then, is if you think this is stupid, again, my question is, what is the rest of the Republican field doing to reach young voters? Donald Trump, well, he visited the Iowa State fraternity on Saturday, and that was pretty cool, and so I'll give him that. Okay, fine, right? And I support Trump, and I think in many ways, you very often find that a lot of younger conservatives really like Trump just because the energy of him is very similar to that of a young man, so, that's there. But what's the rest of the Republican field actually doing at all to at least attempt to make an outreach to Gen Z, specifically Gen Z men? Right? Because that's the demographic we very often talk about on this channel. Hey, by polls, a lot of young men out there actually on the issues lean conservative. In some ways, they are quote-unquote natural conservative. You see this in the polls. You've seen this in the street videos we've done at my own university, right? A lot of young men, when we always talk about all these, young people are lost, young people are stupid. Yeah, very often that's true. They're young people. But this whole idea that all of Gen Z is just this far left, lost generation of crazy hippies. I mean, yeah, let's be real. A lot of young women are like that. A lot of the young blue-haired feminists are like that. Obviously, those exist. I'm not saying they don't exist. But the fact I've tried to bring up so many times, and a lot of people on the surface don't disagree, which is, I say, first of all, there's a lot more conservatives in our generation than you realize. A lot of them are fans of someone like Jake Paul. That's the truth. But the problem is that the Republican Party doesn't actually make an attempt to outreach to them. And you see this. Like, when's the last time you really saw the Republican Party make a concerted effort to win the youth vote? It never happens. It never happens. Obviously, that's destructive for a number of reasons. Chiefly and most importantly, math. Obviously, if you make no outreach to the younger generations and make sure only politically want your electorate to be over the age of 85, obviously, even if that wins you elections in the short term, it's not going to win you the future. Gen Z is important. The younger generations are important. And like the point I've been making, there's actually a lot more sympathy for the GOP than we think, particularly amongst the young men out there. And then here comes along, for once, someone who actually tries to he makes an attempt. Again, you might think it's cringe. Okay, fine. I'm not saying the video isn't cringe. But the fact that he did meet with an influencer, a YouTuber, who again is very large and prominent, influential within our generation, it seems to me a lot of people are more so hating on that, on the idea of that, again, on the idea of a Republican trying to outreach to the youth vote than they are about this one video. And I know that for a fact because when I was really browsing through, you did a little bit of investigation here. When I was really trying to look into the types of people on Twitter, on social media, that most often were making fun of Vivek for meeting with Jake Paul, very often it was, I'm going to be real, very often it was DeSantis supporters. That's just the truth. Like that's the primary demographic base I've seen hating on this move here. Okay. So then, again, if you don't like this, if you think this is cringe, fine. But my counter question is okay, let's talk specifically to DeSantis people. What is Ron DeSantis doing to win the Gen Z vote? Even among young Republicans? Because you look at how he polls with people under 45, Republicans under 45, it's terrible. Like Donald Trump destroys him in that demographic. And so does Vivek, frankly. I'd have to imagine that poll was done before Vivek was super big on the, in the field. I'm sure by now it's probably big gap there. What are you doing? What are they doing? Again, the answer is absolutely nothing. So it's like, before we're going to go and hate on a guy like Vivek, who is younger and trying to make a play for the younger votes and trying to do something that the dance is stupid. I get that. But the overall idea, the strategy is actually in touch with Gen Z. He's doing what a lot of Democrats have done with celebrities and Hollywood and influencers like that for their own causes. Think about all the Hollywood celebrities and influencers in 2020 that the DNC basically contacted and said, hey, make a video endorsing Biden. What is wrong with Vivek trying to counter that by saying, okay, here's a celebrity of our own? What is wrong with Jake Paul? Also, let's talk about him. We always complain about how, there's so many Gen Z liberals and they go out to vote because look at all the influencers. Look how far left they are. Well, Jake Paul's not far left. Well, Jake Paul's a Republican, right? And here he is now doing what I have been hoping for so long he actually does, which is whatever risk it costs. Get involved, right? Start, helping our campaign, helping us in 2024, doing what his brother Logan basically does for the Democrats. Here he is doing that. And again, is it perfect? No. Is a little bit cringe? Yes. But it's a start. And people want to just sit there and hate on it? I think this is a good move for his campaign, Vivek, genuinely. Because once the cringe, the fallout of that is done and the people who don't like him are going to dunk on him, fine, whatever. What he's going to get is a lot of young men out there who, again, like I've been saying, this whole idea that our generation is so far left is not true. A lot of young men out there who lean more conservative politically, probably like Trump, probably like Republicans and all that stuff, but don't vote. This is the big thing I've been bringing up. Your average frat guy doesn't vote. Your average red pill manosphere fan doesn't vote. Self-improvement bro, gym bro, finance guys, Andrew Tate fans, or whatever it is. Your average right-leaning young male out there does not vote and is not politically engaged. Well, when a non-political influential guy like Jake Paul goes out there and starts getting involved in politics, what do you think that does? Well, it takes a lot of... Is he himself probably changing minds? No. But what it does is it takes a lot of his audience, who, again, like I said, a lot of young men out there are not that left-wing, and gets them more, whether they vote for Vivek or Trump or DeSantis, whoever it is, gets them more involved with the idea of, hey, there is an election coming up. Hey, I should be more politically active. Jake Paul's kind of bringing that up in the conversation. Hey, here's exposure to some Republican candidates. Hey, here's exposure to the other side. That, by proxy, in the end, will bring young men who, again, like I said, do lean naturally conservative on average. Look at the polls. Into the political process. Maybe we'll vote Republican, hopefully, in 2020. And I mean actually vote, right? And overall, it's a net positive. So that's my whole thing on this. If you don't like this, fine. But if you're not making an appeal to Gen Z yourself and you don't have your own strategy to do it, then I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear from it. And frankly, I'll say this. I'm really tired of Republicans constantly just doing nothing but putting down my generation. Like, honest, I'm starting to get a little defensive. It actually, I'm incredibly sick of it. Because it's like, yeah, you can call young people stupid. Are young people stupid? A lot of them are. You're not wrong about that. But what are you doing to change that? What are you doing to take, again, the huge base of young men in our generation, I'd argue a majority who, at the very least, are not gone. They're not crazy woke liberals. Some of them probably more moderate. There's, maybe they're not super politically informed. But what are you doing out there to reach out to them? To say, hey, you guys are the future of this country. Here's what we as the Republican Party propose. I don't see any of that. All I see is the GOP and a lot of Republican media just constantly going out there and just saying, oh, your generation's stupid. And okay, fine. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Because people our age are going to take over the country one day, okay? So you can stand there for the next few decades and scream and call us idiots and further alienate, again, a lot of young men out there who probably would support you. Or you can do what Vivek is doing and say, nope, we're going to make a play for this vote because we know there's a lot more support out there and obviously you guys are the future. Or you can do what Donald Trump is doing and show up to the frat house and you know, have a good time there and tailgate with them and relate to them. That's stupid. That's cringe. How dare he talk to people who are not under the age of 85? I'm tired of it. I really am tired of it. So look, get your content in. Obviously, we react to a lot of dumb young liberals all the time, but fundamentally, any Republican strategy going forward that is going to continue on this cliche of just bash young people, attack young generations, young people are stupid, without offering them an alternative, without saying, hey, you young generations have been sold a lie. Here's our alternative vision. A lot of you are not as stupid as we think. And here's how we're going to engage you in the process. I'm not going to support a Republican like that. I'm not going to support a Republican who doesn't do that. Because I'm tired of this out of touch approach. And, you know, when you understand math, the out of touch approach is not going to win the future. This is the future. And oh my gosh, how dare a Republican attempt to relate to it? That's my thoughts. I mean, you guys can let me know your thoughts, obviously, in the live chat and stuff below, but I really don't think this was as stupid or terrible or cringe of an idea as people are making it out to be. I actually think that this was actually kind of smart. It was actually kind of smart. What can you say? What can you say? Deutsch Chad says Trump is absolutely crushing it. Him doing his campaigning shows how much of the country really loves him. Absolutely. Absolutely. And notice this too, right? Again, for this whole narrative that like, oh, Gen Z is just lost and they're all crazy liberals. Okay. Look at what happened. And I get it. It's Iowa State. Fine. But it's still Iowa, right? It's not, if you know about the politics of Iowa, it's not deep red. It's like light red. It used to be a competitive state just about a decade and a half ago. Notice how he shows up to that fraternity and the young men out there go crazy for him. Unanimously. He shows up to the big tailgate of a lot of people there. And there's a lot of young women at the tailgate, obviously, too. Notice how he's beloved there. Notice how when I do the, street videos at my school and everyone's like, F Joe Biden, I effing love Trump, blah, blah, blah. Again, how can you look at that and then decide, okay, the correct strategy is to ridicule this generation and attack them and further alienate them and further make disaffected young men even more disaffected because all the Republican Party does is call them stupid? What kind of political strategy is that? Everyone always wants to talk about, oh, the youth are going to screw us over. Okay, what's your plan to win the youth? What is your plan? And I try to lay out a plan and I try to say, yeah, young men, you don't get it, okay? Yes, a lot of what you see, yes, you have the blue-haired minority of freaks and you have a lot of young women who, okay, they're basically brainwashed from birth to vote Democrat, blah, blah, blah. Okay, look at this demographic of young men. I say that, and then everyone just wants to attack it and say young people are stupid and you don't get it, Vince, and your generation is... Okay, fine. Whatever. And I see the same thing, God bless them, but I see the same thing from a lot of older conservative commentators out there. They want to make their whole brand just attacking Gen Z. And I get it. There's a lot of stupidity in our generation that I also attack. But at the same time, right? There's a lot of hope there. And instead of making something out of that, again, all they do is attack and shame and ridicule. That's all they do. That's all they do. So with that said, folks, let's read a little bit of live chat here. Again, if you would like to super chat tonight to support the show, feel free to do so. But let's take a look. What's up, Jenna? Good to see you in live chat. Omar, good to see you. No offense, but it reminds me of Obama. A lot of persuasive talking, but not sure of his values. I mean, that's fair. I understand the sentiment. And there's a degree to which I kind of, I can see that. But understand, this segment, let me make this clear, is not about Vivek. It's not. It's about the general strategy of youth outreach. Okay. So understand that. What I'm saying, him saying this is smart, could equally apply to any other Republican candidate running in any other race out there. Truly. So that's kind of what it's overall about. But let's take a look here. Vince is right. They treated us Gen Xers the same back in the day too. Yeah. It doesn't work. Because the thing is, okay, you see the craziness. You see how crazy, like you all know what gets taught in the school and all that stuff. Just think logically for a second. You don't think there's a lot of young men, especially out there, but young women too. But, statistically speaking, the reason I keep saying young men is because you see the gap in the polls. It's like young woman, liberal up here, conservative down here. Young men, conservative up here, liberal down here. That's why I say the primary demographic, numerically speaking, is young men. You don't think a lot of them feel the same way? Has anyone ever considered that? You don't think a lot of the people in high school and college right now who have to deal with the same feminist professors spouting nonsense, you don't think they feel the same way? They do. Speak to them. A lot of young men are disaffected. They're disenfranchised. A lot of young men feel like here's the thing too. Their whole life, all young men in my generation have been done, our entire lives have been put down. Okay? Toxic masculinity. White guys have it worse. White guys are told, you're basically the scourge of the earth. That's what they're raised from birth to be told and all of that stuff. You ever considered there's actually a lot of them that don't like that and they feel disaffected and they feel like society hates them, which is true. A lot of them do. Why not say, look, maybe you have a home in this party, in this camp of politics. It's true. It's true. All right, with that said, folks, let us move on here with our stories. Should we talk about aliens first, or should we talk about the most important video in the history of ever first? All right, let's really quickly cover the alien thing. Okay, so you guys know that I've been very skeptical of the UFOs and the aliens and all that. But apparently, yesterday, they played a video. Actually, they showed what they claim to be, quote-unquote, real alien corpses from 1,000 years ago or something like this to the Mexican Congress. Let's check it out.
Vamos a presentar
so here's them. Here's the aliens apparently, allegedly.
En Perú, en una mina de diatomea.
So I guess they found these in Peru.
Son cuerpos desecados encontrados entre las ciudades de Palpa y de Nazca. En 2017.
Right, let's look at these aliens. Let's look at these aliens, okay? All right, you ready?
Que de acuerdo a los científicos que van a declararlo aquí, son seres no humanos que no son parte de nuestra evolución. No.
You see that? Look at them. Okay, so do you expect me to believe this? As the alien skeptic, do you really you fools need to do better than this, okay? They literally just rolled out, as you can see, this right here is Joe Biden, obviously. Like, you thought it was a deep fake, that's obviously Joe Biden. The guy next to him is Mitch McConnell. Literally looks like both of them. They rolled out the average US politician and senator and put them on stage and expected me to believe, oh wow, they're aliens. Wow. What a joke. What a joke. And then for people who said, no, maybe this is real, Vince. Okay. Not that I necessarily trust institutional fact checkers, but apparently this has already been debunked. Okay. Apparently, now, like I said, you may say, okay, Vince, you're trusting institutional knowledge. Okay, fine. I get it. It's a little hypocritical. But I have been told that they've already said, yeah, these are basically just fake bodies that they made for the purpose of, I don't know, making up a fake hoax or whatever. But, people are going to believe, I guess. So maybe these are real alien mummies and I'm just dumb. No, clearly not. Look at it. That's literally just Mitch. Look, that's Mitch McConnell. That's Joe Biden. The idea that I'm going to be fooled by that is laughable. Anyways, with that said, going on now, folks, to our final story of the night. We got to give you an update on the most important video in the history of ever that we watched on Monday. Okay? Because we have a part 2. There's more information of the people who... Now, let's talk about something that's not a hoax, okay? So, obviously, aliens, not real, all of that stuff. Okay, but the idea that I am a black person, this is the realest and truest thing that's ever been spoken. Frankly. Okay? And we got to refresh people. So people who are not here on Monday's stream. On Monday, we reacted to the most important video ever. We got a part 2 that we got to talk about here today. But first, since I know some people probably missed it or they forgot about it, whatever, let us first contextualize by, refreshing all of our memories, because this is very important knowledge. This is very important. And I can't have people forgetting or not knowing the history or the context here. Let us refresh all of our memories by remembering what the important knowledge we learned on Monday. So here that is.
Okay, I just want to make this little video today because it's a little concerning. I'm seeing a lot of anti-blackness in general. Like a lot of anti-blackness from the Asians, okay? They're talking about Asian hate, but I think it's more like black hate, okay? And I just want to point something out that... the original Japanese was black. Right here, here's a picture. These are clearly African features on these indigenous people. And the story goes that in 25 BC, a ship from Africa, from a Hukong Kinte, who was one of the African kings of Ghana, sailed the ship all the way from Ghana, and he got lost. He was trying to explore the new world, and he ended up in Japan. So in Japan, they made a colony.
This is more true than aliens. Okay, this is more true than all the UFO nonsense. This is history. This is history.
And it was the first Japanese Afro colony in the world. So these Afro-Ghanaians, they started interbreeding with the Japanese women. And so they created the first black Japanese population. So if we use the one drop rule, according to that, the calculation would be that actually Japanese is around 45 to 65% black.
So obviously, the point is, I'm obviously a black person, okay? And as you know, on Monday, I was very perplexed, but in a good way, okay? Because like I said, for so long, I've had a crisis of identity. I've really said to myself, when I was young, I asked my parents, Mom, Dad, where am I from? What's our family story? What's very interesting is they never really knew. They said, oh, here's this generation or that. But we really never knew our far back family history. And I would always be jealous because a lot of my other friends, especially those who have ancestry in America for a long time, they knew, oh, my great-grandfather was this and then that. And then, I'm related to Washington or whatever it is. And I never knew. Okay? My whole life, I've always just been a mutt, lost in the wilderness, not knowing the true link to my heritage. And then on Monday, it was answered. Finally, the question I've had all my life of the missing genetic link that I know I always knew all my life, implicitly I had. I found out that the missing link was that I was black. Okay? But unfortunately, a lot of bigoted viewers on Monday did not believe me. They said this video is obviously satire. This is not even a stupid person. This is someone literally just doing parody, blah, blah, blah. All these attempts to deny my heritage. And then, of course, what else we got is people saying, stop playing that video. That's the dumbest video. I keep losing brain cells. And it's insulting. It is insulting. Okay? I get it. It's not your heritage, so you don't feel the same way, but it's important to me. And if it's important to me, it should be important to everyone, because everything revolves around me, obviously. But with that said, for all the doubters, for all the naysayers who don't want to accept that I am a black person, we have new evidence for you today. The follow-up video full of concrete historical evidence for more proof that I, Vince Dow, am indeed a black person. And this is even more detailed than the last one. Let's take a listen, okay?
African people established the first dynasties in Asia. When you look at old paintings of Eastern Asian people, you can see the African ancestry in their features.
The Japanese were formed when Ethiopians brought South Koreans onto the island and combined with the original people there known as the Ainu. The Ainu now, you're going to find the Ainu in the Philippines. They're going to be called Negritos. You're going to find them in Vietnam. They're called the Champa or the Montagnards. You're going to find African people throughout the Far East. Very dark complexion, very curly hair, wide nose, thick lip. You will also find those with straight hair. You will find those with a more aquiline nose.
Some of the first Buddha statues clearly had African features, classical African features. If you go to Thailand, if you go to Korea, if you go to Vietnam, you will see some of these statues up that has the classical African nose, classical African lips, woolly hair. When we go to Asia,
guys, how can you dispute that? All you naysayers, okay? You're like, Vince, you're not black. You're just trolling. You're just trying to be funny. How can you deny the fact that the Buddha statues have wide noses and big lips? That is undisputable historical evidence that we are indeed black. We've been black all along. And all you Eurocentric naysayers just want to deny the real history of my people. This is true. This is true.
Asia, we see that the founder of the samurai warrior, okay, in Japan...
Has Vince done a DNA test? I don't need to. I don't need to. Because I know. Okay, this is convincing enough. Are you not convinced? I already know. I know the truth. I don't need no DNA test to tell me what I already know about myself. That I am, of course, black.
Right, was an African. We found that the founders of the ninja system was an African. In fact, in Japan,
ninjas were invented by black people. This is true.
There's a saying that if you don't have a little bit of African blood, you can never truly be a samurai.
Martial arts was...
That's a real saying. I've been to Japan. I've heard them say that, yeah.
Established by a black Dravidian who was living in southern India
Buddha?
by the name of Bodha Harma.
Yes,
Bodha Harma, it was said that he walked from southern India into Asia, China, and on his way there, he would study the fighting mechanisms of animals, and he used that as a form of self-defense for himself, and that's where martial arts started. There was
black people even invented martial arts. This is true. This is true, okay? Tiger Claw, Crane. What are the other ones? What's this one? I think this is just Mantis, right? I remember I did Kung Fu when I was a kid. And all along, I would always ask my Sifu. I would always ask my Sifu, where does this come from? Who invented this? She would say, I don't know. I do not know. Now we know. Now we know. If only Bruce Lee was alive to find this out. Sad. But now we're learning the true history.
There was another guy named Tigwai who was an original master of martial arts. And if you look at old paintings of Tigwai, this dude looks like Lionel Richie. So there was another guy named Tigwai who was an original master of martial arts. And if you look at old paintings of Tigwai, this dude looks like Lionel Richie.
He looks like Lionel Richie. True. He does. He does.
So martial arts was really established in Africa.
Wu-Tang Clan? See, how do we not know all along? We're all Wu-Tang Clan.
Even during slavery in Brazil, there's a form of Brazilian martial arts, which is African martial arts called capoeira. And what they would do, the African slaves would practice this form of martial art, and they would disguise it as dancing.
When we look at the early pictures of most of the deities of Asia, nearly all of them bore striking resemblance to the deities of the Nile Valley civilizations. And even in their writings, you will see that even in Asia, not just Greece and Rome, but even in Asia, you see them paying tribute paying tribute to the spiritual systems and history that they had learned in Africa. In fact, the Asian spiritual system is probably the
I can vouch for this. This is true.
Closest approximate to the traditional African spiritual system. From the one, you get many, with the creator being manifested in all living organisms, be it a tree or a human being. That is fundamental to Asian thought, but it's also fundamental to African thought, which predated Asia.
When you go into these jungles in Bangkok and the areas of Vietnam, when
Africans invented Asian culture. This is true.
The Vietnamese...
Okay, well, let's listen carefully, because I'm Vietnamese, as you guys know. I'm actually part Chinese, too. I found that out recently, actually. I always speculated because of the name Dao or whatever. But I actually learned I'm part Chinese from my Italian side, which is crazy. But apparently, a long time ago, some Chinese trader, missionary, whatever, actually bred with someone in my family, and I'm actually part Chinese. So that whole first part is relevant too, but let's listen carefully because I'm Vietnamese. That's like my main thing. So here you go.
A tree or a human being. That is fundamental to Asian thought, but it's also fundamental to African thought, which predated Asia.
When you go into these jungles in Bangkok and the areas of Vietnam, when the Vietnamese, when they were fighting in Vietnam, they went into these temples, they saw nothing but these African faces. When they saw the black man dressed up like that, they thought that the Buddha gods had come back. All these black men dressed in these American faces, they were accustomed in the bush to these black faces, these black Buddhas, and...
This is true. This is true. I've met this guy. I've met this guy right here.
Black faces, these black Buddhas.
I don't know how I didn't realize all along. I don't know how I didn't realize, but now I realize.
And when you go deeper into that information, you only see in black faces. You can go down into certain parts of Africa or down there. I forgot the name of the tribes, but in the Bantu, you could look at them and they have...
Yeah, no, they're right. This looks just like me. This guy right here looks just like me. And I never realized that. Wow.
Them, and they have very high cheeks and their eyes are completely slanted. So you can tell where the Chinese people actually ascended from.
Wow. Round of applause for that masterpiece. Yeah, so again, I'm black. All right, I'm black. And you all owe me reparations now, so... We're now open for our super chats, ladies and gentlemen. We'll do comments, Q&A till about 9:15, and I expect heavy reparations as a black content creator. Okay, because obviously, you know, look at everything we've done for the world. Look at everything we've done. We invented peanut butter. We invented martial arts. We invented the entirety of Asian civilization. And all these ungrateful people just don't want to acknowledge the long and storied and rich history of us black folk. And it's just, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But what can we say? Some folks are ignorant. So, you know, they need education. What can we say? What can we say? The white racist Korean man erased your culture, Vince. Take it back. This is so true. This is so true. We're all black guys. Yeah, real. No, we all... Listen, us black people, we built Asia. We built Israel. We built Egypt. We built Rome, Germany. We were the Native Americans. We were everything. And... you know, the white man just never wants to give us credit for it. So it's very important that the history here be taught. And I'm glad that some educated folk like this one right here are doing it. So we definitely love to see it. I appreciate this very much. And I didn't even know. That tells you I never even knew. I never even knew I was a black person. Okay? And I'm very glad to know this now. Very glad to know this now, okay? This changes everything. This changes my entire perception of myself has changed. All right? And I can't believe they tried to conceal this from me for so much of my life. But now we know. Now we know the truth. Now we know the truth. The CA conservative says, me when I step off of the train in Shanghai, am I incompetent? Well, I make that mistake all the time too. But, you know, it's understandable. It's understandable. It's understandable. So, Vietnamese invented pho. That's something. Well, yes, us black people did invent pho. So, this is true. And we were the Mongols, too. Do people forget this? We actually made the largest empire in history on land. Us black people did that. So, you know, this is true. And now that I think of it, Vice News tried to gaslight me. They said, "Oh, you want to come to the Asian panel?" What they should have been saying is, "You want to come to the black panel?" Because that's what I am. You know, a black and Asian are one and the same, but it is what it is. I don't think they knew either, because this is just groundbreaking information and content. Ghost hunting with okay. Says, Vince, are you related to President Xi? I'm actually related to President Mugabe of Zimbabwe. Okay, so that's actually who I'm related to. And Nelson Mandela. Let's see. Meanwhile, the birth rate is plummeting while we are being distracted by this. What do you mean distracted? This is the most important information you have ever heard in your life. And you call it a distraction? I'm sorry you don't share the melanin of us. Okay, I'm sorry about that, but it's very important information. And it's all true. It's all the most true information you've ever heard. So, you know, just gonna say that. Wait, didn't you vote Trump? Sorry, sis, you ain't black anymore. Oh, well, there you. Sorry. Okay, yeah, I am not black. You're right. Because I support Trump. So, you know. Jameson B says, I love how you can just search on Google, blank was a random black person, and you see a solid handful of articles saying they were. Is that real? I actually want to try that now. Let's try that. Okay. Let's start in Asia. Okay. Was Genghis Khan? I can't type. Was Genghis Khan black? Let's see here. All right. Oh, I gotta resize all this. Okay. Was Genghis Khan black? Let's see. So the top thing that comes up is Quora, and the Quora seems to be saying no, but you know, maybe not. And things you may not know about Genghis Khan. I don't see it. Okay. There's no was Genghis Khan black. Okay. Okay, let's look for some like European then. Was Julius Caesar black? Let me see. Was Julius Caesar black? Was Julius Caesar black? No, he was a very active man. What the heck does that mean? What the heck he was a very active man? What? Okay, yeah, no, there's the real Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was not black. He was a Roman of Italian descent. Okay, it's ChatGPT. ChatGPT's just been feeding misinformation. I mean, look at that sculptor. That looks pretty black to me. I don't know. See, is this real? Because I'm not finding any of this. Okay, here. Vice News says Julius Caesar is generally depicted as a white man, when in fact historians believe he was much darker. Okay, well, oh, here we go. AfricaResource.com. Finally, a trustworthy news source. It says, was Julius Caesar white? Not on your life. All right, here we go. See, now we're getting to the truth. All right. Rasta Livewire. All right, here we go. Was Julius Caesar... They didn't even spell Caesar. No, actually, that's the right way to spell it. Anyone who disagrees is just racist. Okay, was Julius Caesar white? Not on your life. The African roots of the... They keep spelling it wrong. Okay, all right, well, this is an important academic article, okay? Golden coin of Julius Caesar in Italy, Rome, 46... I mean, look at that. Obviously, he's black. Look at him. Says, Vivek, okay. The Manhattan Art and Antique Center, New York, Sorry, Adam, sir, but for being a victim of white supremacist. All right, so as you see, white supremacist editing. But allow me to enlighten you on the wrongly painted Caesar. They don't even capitalize. Well, obviously, capitalization is a Eurocentric idea. Okay, his significance in history cannot be correctly established without visiting his origins. He was a descendant of the Trojan hyenas, the only descendant of Priam that left the besieged city with his breath. Okay, blah, 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 blah. His first stop was in Africa, in Libya. His first stop... Wait, no. I gotta read it. His first stop was Africa in Libya. Safely welcomed by the Black Empress Dido. Well, see, that obviously proves that he's black. Safely welcomed by the Black... Okay. To her ancestral home, Africa, for fear of her murderous Zidonian black brother. He survived the great tempestuous winds, blah, blah, blah. Okay, where's the evidence that he was black? I get it. Yeah, Julius Caesar, Black King. Where's the evidence, though? All right. I'm a little disappointed. I'm trying to find the actual their narrative of how Julius Caesar was black, but I'm not finding it. The Romans were nothing. The Romans were nothing like these false Gauls that took over after it fell many times. To even rely on statues shows much ignorance. It is truly ignorant. Blah, 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 the Gauls. You can continue believing that nonsense you regard as history. Yeah, the history that Julius Caesar was European, of course. And let those who choose to discover differently in peace. There is very little history of the ancient world that remains undiluted by white lies. For real, for real. Is it not that even Napoleon could not take it to see the sphinxes black and bombarded the noses in anger of discovering that it were not whites that glorified history, but the same undermined blacks? To perform acts of history and to assume plundered glory are different things. Adam should know that the missionaries or teachers will be sent to correct history and put blacks in their proper significance, like the way the lies were propagated. Blacks should stand up for themselves and seek the truth, which unfortunately lies among lies. As a black person, I 100% agree. I 100% agree as a black person. All right, let's just see. Were Asians black? Let's look more broadly here. Okay. Oh, here we go. Here we go, folks. Are Asians black? The Asian American Civil Rights... All right, let's take... Okay, I want to... Okay, let's find out if Asians are black. All right. Let's see here. Are Asians black? The Asian American Civil Rights Agenda and the contemporary significance of the black-white paradigm. Well, there is no paradigm. Asians are black, so, it's not really a false paradigm. We are black. Okay. All right, it's a long book. I'm not trying to read a stupid book. All right, here's the most interesting one, though, because this is the theory I've been hearing the most mainstream from Tariq Nasheed and stuff recently, is the idea that the original Native Americans were black. So let's find that out. Are Native Americans black? Because I've actually been hearing people make this legitimate claim, which obviously my claim is also legitimate, but I want to see this here. I want to see this. Here you go. Are black people native to America? All right. Here we go. Now we're on some content. This is some real content. All right, let's take a listen to this. We need to find this out, because this is obviously history. All right, here we go. What an intro! As a black person, I approve of this intro.
What up, African World? It's Home Team here, and I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture, and worldview. I've been doing videos for years now, and sometimes it can be difficult to answer all the questions I've been getting especially from videos I've done like super long ago. So I thought to myself, you know, what better way to answer all these questions and even critiques
I'm gonna speed it up
than to do
so
video
we can
on.
get through
So in
it.
the future, hopefully I can do more of these videos. And one of my recent videos about Estevanico, it brought about a lot of discussion about Africans in America before Columbus and about the demographics of native populations in America. And I wanted to express my position on the topic.
I just want to hear it.
Estevanico the Moor, who traveled to the New World with the Spanish, has been described as the first great black man in America. The history of Estevanico is interesting because he's quite possibly the first Muslim to set foot on American soil. Estevanico's companions were astonished at his ability to communicate with Native Americans through hand signals and what they thought to be indigenous languages.
Because they're both black. I get it. I get it now.
Native American communities
This is the history you were not taught in school.
were absolutely fascinated by Estevanico because they had never seen a black man before. Estevanico pushed forward
Wait, but I thought... Okay.
until he reached a region never before traveled by non-Indians. Crossing into what is now Arizona and New Mexico, he saw from a high elevation the walls of the famous city of Cibola, which the Indians called Hawaku. The legacy of Estevanico is great because he was the first African to culturally, linguistically, and socially navigate the spaces.
Okay, I want the answer to, are black people native to America? That's what we're trying to figure out. Okay, here we go. Black people before Columbus. All right, let's take a listen.
So from the clips that you guys just saw, I'm pretty much advancing the idea that Estevanico was the first significant black man in America on American soil. And some of you had your critiques and your comments saying that, hey, home team, like there were clearly black people in America before Estevanico. And I feel like we really need
So true. So true. Yes. Yes.
to explore that because the only clear-cut
here we go.
evidence that I'm privy to concerning Africans coming to the New World or
Don't think, Vince. Believe. So true. So true.
Americas before Columbus is by a journey by a Malayan king named Abubakar Keita II. And this journey wasn't an exaggeration or fantasy, like
It wasn't fantasy. It wasn't fantasy.
it's a clear-cut, documented fact. And it was documented by an Egyptian man, apparently, who had some sort of interaction with Mansa Musa, and he wrote down, literally, word for word, what Mansa Musa told him. Now, Abubakar Keita made this journey a whole century before Columbus.
Okay, you guys got that? A century before Columbus, in the 1300s. What is it? Abu Bakita sailed from Africa. Okay, and all these racists who claim that African civilizations at that time didn't have the technology for it, you're wrong. Sailed from Africa and discovered America 100 years before Columbus. And this is not fantasy. This is history. So true. So true.
And, you know, scholars aren't exactly sure concerning the success of this trip, but it is definitely
Scholars
clear
aren't
that
exactly sure. Scholars aren't exactly sure. Well, there's some racist scholars. I don't know what to say. They're just in denial. The evidence is astounding. This is obviously true.
he definitely sailed the Atlantic Ocean. And there's also
He
evidence
definitely sailed the Atlantic Ocean. So true. I was there. I saw him do it. So don't tell me he didn't.
to suggest that there were Africans who were shipwrecked in South America and had a lot of contentious relationships with the native population there. Now, many people usually point to Ivan van Sertima, a scholar from the Caribbean who wrote a book called They Came Before Columbus. And personally, I never read the whole book. From what I did read,
I'm going to read that book. They Came Before Columbus. We're buying that book and reading it, because it's very important and historical.
It does seem as though he's talking about European visitors after Columbus who saw black people there, essentially, or they stated that, hey, you know, these Native Americans told us that they've been trading with black people. And to me personally, that really points or adds more weight to the fact that Abubakar Keita, a century later, was shipwrecked, and some of those black people or those Africans on his journey, they were trading with the Native American people there, and they were sort of in survival mode, if you will.
Again, I was there. I saw this all happen.
Now, to be honest, I do think that claiming that the native population in the America before Columbus, before Abubakar, saying that they were black people, I believe it's a little disingenuous. Because honestly, there
I don't think it's disingenuous. I think they were.
There isn't much information to ground ourselves in that idea. But honestly, I don't even mind us saying that, hey, there were groups of Africans here who were in survival mode or who were just here, you know, thriving, if you will, due to the journey of Abu Bakr Keita a century before Columbus.
Okay, well, guys, I mean, look, he has a balanced opinion on it. He thinks it's a little bit far-fetched. I mean, look, and be fair to the guy, okay? He thinks it's a little far-fetched that black people themselves were the Native Americans. The original Native Americans were black. But he doesn't think it's far-fetched that black Africans in the 13th century, a century before Columbus, sailed to America and colonized America before Columbus. So, you know, he has a balanced opinion on it, right? He's not like, oh, well, black people being the original Native Americans, okay, that's a bit much. But black people discovering America before the Europeans, that's about balance, right? That's about logical. That makes sense. That has historical basis, right? That all makes... See, he has a balanced opinion on it.
I personally wouldn't mind that. But to say
I
that
respect it.
there were Africans here indigenous to America before Columbus, before Abu Bakr Keita, I don't know about that. I personally believe that Abu Bakr Keita actually did make the journey to the Atlantic Ocean, and he found land in South America somewhere, and he was
Again, I was there. I saw him do it, so don't say it's not real.
Shipwrecked with hundreds or thousands of his shipmates, essentially, and they were in survival mode. So if we want to advance that idea, I can rock with that a lot better. But to ground ourselves in this idea that there were Africans here before that journey from the Mali Empire.
From the Mali Empire. All right, I'm actually very curious in all these theories now. Okay, what's this guy's name? Abu Bakr. How do you spell it?
That, hey,
how do you spell it? Abu Bakr. Okay.
Fact.
Abu Bakr Keita. All right. I need to see this guy's ship. Okay, I need to see the historical 1000% real ship. Abu Bakr Keita. All right, here we go. All right. Here it is, folks. Abu Bakr Keita. The Atlantic voyage of the predecessor of Mansa Musa. So there's Abu Bakr Keita. They came before Columbus, the African king who discovered America 180 years before Columbus. He's got a nice Gucci belt on, as you can see. You know, OG. And then look at his... He's got a gold, what is that called? A compass, right? To navigate. He's got a gold compass. True visionary. True visionary, okay. Did Abu Bakr discover America? From IndonesiaWindow.com. Mansa Abu Bakr II crossed the Atlantic Ocean in 1311. The journey was recorded in history, but no one knows if he reached America. Nonetheless, there are many evidences, guys, that West African Muslims had set foot on their neighboring continent. So you just said there's no evidence, but they said there's many evidences. Well, I agree. There's many evidences. Okay. They're saying he did not discover that river. All right, very interesting. Did Abu Bakr reach America? Both historians, okay, so all two of them believe Abu Bakr may have reached the Americas. Some people believe Abu Bakr established a colony in Brazil where he traded with Tupi people and sent New World wealth back to Mali. In these stories, he named the colony Born Bambuk after the empire's famous gold fields. All right, who truly discovered America? All right, I don't know. But yeah, I want to see a ship, though. Let's see. Okay, is this a ship? All right, that's a ship right there. These are the ships they use to sail across the Atlantic Ocean. Not allegedly. This is real. Okay. Let's look at their ship. All right, here's their ships. All right, you guys see the ship? Wow, look at that. Incredible. Wow. So they built a ship out of straw, apparently. It looks like straw. Okay, so they use straw or hay or grass or whatever which obviously is very good in water and you know, very sturdy. And they use these ships to cross from West Africa to Brazil. Talk about your history. Talk about your history. Okay, wait, are these actual ships? What is this? Africa's greatest explorer. I don't know. Okay, so they use canoes. They use giant canoes. Oh yeah, look at this. So they use, look at that. They use giant canoes, folks, to literally sail. Look at that. Wow. Incredible. Now, to all the naysayers who say there's no way that thing can even physically cross the entire Atlantic Ocean, how the heck is that? How do they even do that? You just don't get it. You don't understand the excellence. Okay? You just don't get, oh, you know, I have a Eurocentric view of history, and I don't think that a canoe can go across the Atlantic Ocean. Check your privilege. Check your privilege. Incredible. I'm actually like so fascinated by this. Incredible. So there you have it. There you have it. Black people discovered America. This is true. This is true. All right. All right. With that said, folks, last call for super chats. I'll end the stream here at 9:30. But you know, I'm enlightened. My mind has never been bigger. My brain has never been bigger than it is right here. Last call for super chats. Anything you want to send in, questions, comments, feel free to do so. I'm going to end the stream here in 3 minutes. But this is incredible, guys. I can't believe we never learned this in school. Amazing. Look at the reliable source of face-to-face Africa. They know. What, you think historians know? You think scholars know? These guys know. And I'm not being sarcastic. Way before Columbus, ancient Malians sailed to the Americas in 1311. Wow. Or so say some historians. Incredible, guys. Incredible. He left with 2,000 boats. You puny Columbus, you only left with 3. He left with 2,000. Incredible. Incredible. Wow. So this is not a drawing. This is actually a real photograph. This is actually a real picture they took because the ancient Mali Empire actually had cameras. This is a real picture they took of, there's them landing in Brazil, meeting the natives, as you can see. Get out of here, Columbus. Okay, Columbus, you don't know nothing. All right, that's what they wore when they met Columbus. This is true. Others say the presence of stoneheads with African features is even more proof. In the Olmec Empire. The Olmec Empire is when? Isn't that like BC? Isn't the Olmec pre-Christ or around there, like 5th century something? Let's see. When was the Olmec Empire? When was the Olmec Empire? In South America. Yeah, it was. I was right. It was 1600 BC to 350 BC. So, you know, a couple hundred to 1,000 years before the birth of Christ, folks, Africans sailed from Africa to South America. Incredible. Incredible. Aren't you so glad? Aren't you so glad you're learning real history that actually adds up and makes sense and is coherent? So true. See, now the Pilgrims was black and they ate cornbread at the first Thanksgiving. True. True. All right, folks, with that said, thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. We'll probably be live tomorrow night, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, probably, most likely. Because there's still a lot of news this week we didn't even cover this week. But, I mean, I think this is the most important stream in the history of the channel, frankly. You know? We've all learned. We've all learned. All right, Alpha Moves only. God bless. Have a very good night, and see you guys later. Peace.